we should start by congratulating you, Coach, for at the very least securing a playoff spot with the team, obviously. So regardless of the results for the next couple of weeks, Stony Brook will be playing in the American East playoffs. So how do you feel?
All excited. I mean, that's one of our, goals every year, right? Just to make the American East tournament because you got to be in it to win it, right? So, I mean, to be able to knock that off and get ready to attack, this next 4-game stretch hopefully is going to be a bear. We're looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah, and with that too, and to be the first team, so far the only team that clinched the spot, do you feel relieved in that sense, or does it add a bit more pressure in the sense of how you want to finish off the season?
Oh, definitely. You're excited that you have it done. There's no shot if you get down to the last week and you got to win. It puts more pressure on it, right? It's an extra playoff game. But if that's the case, we would have been ready for that too. But again, we're looking forward to continue to play our best lacrosse here. Is the focus.
Coach, you scored 22 goals, and Dylan Palinetti scores one of them. I mean, obviously, it's a tribute to what everybody else was able to do, but he didn't take many shots either. Did he conscientiously take on a different role in this game against Binghamton?
No, he just continues to play team offense, and I think that's, again, we've been saying it all year, that's our focus. And there's times when Dylan's going to have to, let him fly a little bit more. And there's other times when he's just doing his part and moving the ball and, other guys are getting involved. So, I mean, he played within himself, like he's done all year.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest strength to that attack is definitely when you look at the numbers, Stony Brook has the 3 top point scorers in the American East Conference, when Mike McCannell, Chris McCall, I believe, I think Vangenhoven, and then Dylan Palinetti leading them all. So how does that speak as testament to the offense you're bringing out there every week?
Oh, I mean, like I said, it's a credit to those guys, and Coach Chaney does a great job with them to buy into our philosophy, right? There's a lot of times coaches talk, hey, this is how we're going to play, and then you watch them play, and it's completely different. We talk about playing team offense, all 6 guys engaged, and we're proving it with the amount of guys that are scoring goals, and those guys leading the league. They've just done a good job taking advantage of their opportunities when they get them.
Yeah, and with that as well, that was a pretty convincing win against Binghamton. It was close, especially towards that first half, but that third quarter really was all Stony Brook. 7 unanswered goals. What do you tell your guys in the locker room during halftime? Or what do you notice was the biggest adjustment from the first half to that third quarter?
I thought we were playing good offensively in the first half. I didn't think we were playing great defensively in the first half. I think we had, 10 goals in the first half. I mean, if you're getting 10 and a half, that's usually a sign that you're doing something right. I thought defensively we could have played a little bit better. And Coach Brazel did a great job challenging the guys and making the adjustments. And obviously those guys rose to the occasion to play great defense in the second half. The starters let up no goals in the second half when they were out there. Backups let up 2 there at the end. But, it's really a credit to those guys continuing to just stay the course, right? We talk about that's the toughest thing in sports. When you're going well, to keep going well by doing the little things right. And when you're struggling, to be able to do the little things right to get you out of it. And those guys, I think, did a great job doing both of those.
Yeah, at some point in the second half, you're expecting maybe a surge on Binghamton's part, never came.
Yeah, I think it came down to us just continuing to kind of take their will away a little bit. We made some saves when they had some looks, and we finished every time we had the opportunity, and they had I think statistically the best goalie in the league. And that was something, like I said, we were focused a little bit more on than we had in the past. And our guys, shot them out of the game in the third quarter there.
And we saw the difference. What did you tell the guys specifically in terms of shooting? So we're not talking about like specific angles, but about the positioning of the players. Did you say anything in regards to how they should approach going up against, as you said, the best goalie in the conference statistically wise in Teddy Dolan?
I think when it comes down to goaltending and scouting goalies and stuff, it really comes down to moving the goalie, right? Everyone has good goalies at this level. So it's making sure we're moving them side to side, north and south. I think that was more of our focus. And then we have an opportunity, you got to put in a good spot. It wasn't like, hey, we're only shooting at this one spot or we're only shooting on this side of the field. We got to be a little bit better team offense-wise of moving it side to side and up and down. And then when you have the opportunity to finish, you got to put it to a good spot. So that's kind of our focus.
And on goalies, I want to talk about Anthony Palmer. Remember at the start of the season, there was a battle between your 3 goaltenders. Stuck with Palmer as a starter for every game this season. He allowed the most goals in non-conference play. But since then, really that series with UMBC and obviously Syracuse, he's been remarkable. He's among the top goaltenders in terms of goals allowed, during the second least amount, obviously, and getting a lot of saves. So what has helped him? Where have you seen him progress throughout the season?
just experience. I think that's the toughest thing. When you're a first-time starter in a lot of positions, but really in the goal, and everything is new. You give up a couple goals. How do you respond? You're not playing defense a ton. There's sometimes it's harder when you play offense a lot and then they come down and play defense because you're not locked in as much. So I think it's just kind of continuing to go through the ebb and flow of maturity of being a starting goalie, and he's got a lot of talent. We knew that. Defensively, we're playing well in front of him. Coach Brazel's done a great job with those guys, making sure we're dialed in week out. But, again, we have a big test here coming up this week and next week and in the conference tournament. So a lot will be written on this story in the upcoming weeks.
And with that, obviously, you're heading to a matchup against UMBC, obviously, on big storylines. And with that, knowing kind of seeing how this team has progressed throughout the season, especially against a team like Binghamton, where prior to Friday's game, they only allowed 10 goals against opponents once this season. So for you to put the season high goals against them, how does that speak to the confidence of your team and you heading into this Saturday's matchup?
Yeah, for us, we just continue to progress. That's been our message, and the guys buy into it. They're continuing to improve week in and week out, day in and day out, and that's what we've worked on. I'm not a big stats guy. I'm not a big rankings guy. Those things don't really matter to me. It's continuing every day, every week, get better, and we're doing that. And we're hoping, like we said, to play our best lacrosse at the end of the year. And that kind of started with Binghamton. Moving on now is kind of what I kind of focus on the last part of the season here. And the guys are really doing that.
Yeah. And,
Matt,
Matt,
you're muted.
Uh-oh.
You're muted there.
Good catch, Coach. Good save.
Coaches generally don't like to talk about statement wins, but when you see Brook put up 20 goals, you're Vermont, you gotta think that they're reacting to that. They're just saying, this team's starting to peak.
Yeah, it's human nature, right? As coaches, you look at what other people are doing, but again, every week is so different. The teams are so different. The matchups are so different, So I think as coaches, yeah, I'm sure, UMBC is going to possess the ball and do some things like they did the first time to try and slow down the amount of touches we have. But, at the end of the day, we're just trying to go in there and play the best lacrosse. But we recruit against Binghamton, so obviously anytime you recruit against schools like that, you want to try and differentiate yourself a little bit. I feel like we did that.
What was the thing that UMBC was able to do with you guys the first time that slowed you down?
They possessed the ball a lot. They spin it. They took the full 80 seconds. What they did probably the best that really frustrated us the most was just the clear. We didn't clear the ball well. A lot of it was self-inflicted. They did a good job riding us. But in the second half of the game, when they had the ball the entire game, we barely had the ball. And when we did, we scored right away. Then going into the overtimes, obviously that was a different story, but I thought they did a really good job of possessing it and then riding it back. And we didn't do a good job of being poised and settling and clearing it and being efficient, right? This game is about efficiency. It's being about efficient when we have it. When we are on defense, we got to be efficient to stop it and clear it. The more efficient we can be, the more chance we have to win.
The other thing is that early on in the season, you get production out of one line, two lines. You have a couple of stars in the game, and they're always different ones every week. But Binghamton, the way it looked to me was this is one of the first times that you had every line producing. And, of course, perfect time in the season to do it. Is that going to be the big difference versus the UMBC this week as opposed to last time?
I think the consistency of the players, that's definitely part. And we feel like we can put 8 or 9 offensive players out there at a clip and they can all score. I think that kind of separates us from a lot of teams in the country, for sure, just our depth of scoring. So they got to play well. Everyone knows their role. I think, now you're at this time of the season, everyone understands what we're looking to do, how we're looking to do it, how we're looking to use their personnel, our personnel. And conversely, the defenses know what we're trying to do a little bit more, right? So we got to continue to, I'm a big believer. It doesn't matter if the defense knows what you're doing. Offensively, we can out-execute it, so that's the big focus for us.
Another thing I liked was even guys who don't necessarily get major minutes, like Patrick Cashall, gets in the game, scores immediately, makes perfect use of the time he has out there.
Pat's a guy, he's just playing so well that we're trying to find ways to get him out there now in the midfield a little bit. Obviously, he stepped up when Tommy was hurt against Albany, then he kind of got banged up against Hartford, so it kind of put us in a bind there. But, he's been playing great, and we're going to continue to kind of ride him as much as we can, get him in the mix a ton.
Yeah, your team's been pretty good, I think, with injuries for a lot of the season. Too many stars, too many games. Are we going to see a healthy roster for the upcoming game?
I hope so. I know we're a little banged up. Like everyone is this time of year, right? You're just trying to maximize your reps in practice without doing 100 things or spanning out there for too long at this time of the year. So we definitely got some guys that are injured and fighting through. We got some guys that are kind of getting healthy, which is, at this time of the year, it's part of college athletics.
Nothing serious, of course, right?
No.
Yeah. And I was on Patrick Cashel. I love talking about him because this is a guy who's a projected NRL first round pick by Inside Lacrosse. He's going to go to the pros, obviously, probably in the NLL. So with that, it's a guy has that talent, not only collegiately, but he's going to show professionally. So with that, and how competitive it is, especially getting time on this roster, on those lines, as you said. But what does it speak to the talent that your team currently possesses?
We feel like we're a talented team. I mean, I've been saying that from day one. I mean, we have a lot of depth. We could play 3 full midfield lines, and I don't think we'd skip a beat. I think that's how talented we are. I think offensively, you can rotate 5 attackmen if we really wanted to and feel like we wouldn't be too far off. But I think that's part of, practices are competitive, right? Offense versus defense, offense versus offense, when we're kind of going at it. It makes practices better, which makes our team play better, and I think that's a big part of it. Pat being, a pro guy, I mean, he's more of a defender in the box game and an offensive guy in the field game. So, it's kind of 2 different things. But, I mean, he's been playing hard and playing well. And when he goes in there, good things happen, and that's why we continue every week saying, hey, we got to continue to find more ways to get Pat in, more ways to get Pat in. So we're going to continue to try and find ways to be creative with that.
And on that, too, when you see a team like UMBC who's really good, especially at the interior defense, riding their guys, as you said, having that strongman defense up against an offensive team like you, where there's a lot of motion, some 3-1-2 umbrella sets, some of those, you mixing that motion offense. Is that something we're coming into this game? And even the one after that with Vermont, are we going to be expecting more of a mixture of those lines that we've been accustomed to seeing this season?
Oh, we're going to be consistent. I mean, we're going to, mix guys in and out with, Wayne and Pat and those guys kind of getting in and out in different roles. But offensively, we kind of are who we are at this point, right? And we like where we're at. There's some coaches that are not feeling the same way about their teams as we are, right? So we're excited. It's just continue to execute at a high level, right? It's continue to understand what our opponent's going to do and how we want to attack it. And I think that's the beauty of our offensive system is we can attack teams from so many different ways. Without it being too complex internally. Externally, it looks like, hey, we're doing all these different things. Internally, it's pretty simple stuff at this point of the season. So I think that's the key for us, and we got to be able to be efficient when we have it.
Speaking of efficient, I know it's growth over the course. Shots on goal versus goal. I mean, I've seen you guys had like 11 over 22.5, which is 50%. But more recently, it's become more of a Stony Brook type of offense where you're much more efficient. And I've seen both kinds of offenses, high risk, high reward. But you guys, despite the fact you score a lot, you're still very deliberate, and you're almost like a slowdown offense that happens to score a lot.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, for us, we feel like, we can score in transitions. It's something that we're continuing to work on. I mean, it's not at the level of that. That's one area of our game we wish that we can just continue to execute a little bit better at. We spend a lot of time in practice doing that. But we feel like 6-on-6 with the way we play offense, how we share it, how talented we are, that we can score every time. So we're not afraid to make it a 6-on-6 game. I think there's teams that like to run and gun and don't want to settle down. This is going to be a little bit more of a settled game. UMBC likes to settle it down and play 6-on-6. And, I think how we're built is we can play an up and down game and we can play a 6-on-6 game. When you have it, you got to finish it, and that's where the efficiency comes in.
Is there a little bit of revenge factor in play here because they stole it from you the first time?
There's definitely part of it. I think anytime you lose and you get an opportunity to play somebody again, that's athletics, at its finest, I feel. And especially it was so long ago. We're so different. They're so different. They've had a lot of injuries and some, COVID stuff that they're kind of getting healthy now at the right time as well. So it's a big game. This is round 2 of what's probably going to end up being a 3-round battle this year. So we know what it is. It's one game. Win or lose, we're going to have another game and probably see them again.
The Ivies there's still some, we mentioned this before, but there are some free spots now in the tournament that a lot of conferences are going to be fighting for, like America East, CAA. But what do you think the chances are with the number of ranked teams the American East has, and as we getting better every week, that the American East might send more than one?
Oh, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, it's probably not a great chance just because, we didn't beat, I think 3 of us played Syracuse. We all lost. I mean, I think that hurts us a little bit, being that's probably our most marquee non-conference game in our league, and no one beat them. But I mean, it puts you in position to be in the conversation, which is all you can ask for. It's such a wild year. I mean, especially when you look at the Big Ten and some of those leagues that only played each other. How do you differentiate if those teams are any good? Obviously I watch Maryland on film and I know they're good, but some of those others, I don't know. So I think for us, our focus is, again, continuing to play best lacrosse and win the American East tournament. And if we do that, we don't have to worry about Selection Sunday except who we're playing.
Yeah, there's no question Maryland's the top 3 school at the very least, and more likely than not number 1. But even with that, the rankings, at least inside lacrosse, Stony Brook's a top 15 team, 14 to be exact. And you started the season, I remember you saying you envisioned this team would be a top 10 program. At least that's your vision with being here as a head coach for Stony Brook. And for that to kind of start coming into fruition, how does that make you feel? Is there a sense of where now things got to start picking up more and more?
Yeah, no, I think it's, again, we kind of have a plan and a process, and we're sticking to it. Again, like I said before, I've been ranked number 1 and I've been unranked. I felt the same both times. It's for us trying to play the best lacrosse we can. And the rankings are stuff that, like I said, I really don't focus a ton. It's great in recruiting. It's great for our guys, to show the work they're putting in and the belief they have in our coaching staff. But again, this story has an ending that hasn't been written yet. And our process here is, we're year 1.5 in, to make it a consistent thing is going to take time, and we're going to have to roll our sleeves up, and we're going to graduate a lot of guys, and you're going to have to reload as opposed to rebuild, and that's going to be how that process really goes.
Yeah, let's start taking a deeper dive to UMBC, specifically the players. UMBC 5-2 in conference play this season, being 2nd or 3rd in standing. But they're coming out on a hot streak, especially defensively, with Colin Kastner kind of commanding the back row there. He's coming in defensive player of the week, 5 ground ball pickups, leading the team in 12 caused turnovers. What are you telling your guys in terms of trying to compete with a player of his caliber?
I mean, he's fantastic. We played him the first time, and he was really impactful in our game on the wings of the face-offs, at the end of the game in their zone, in overtimes. So we know everything about him, and I think he's the heart and soul of their defense. You can see it. He was out with some health issues there. And now that he's back, that he plays at a high level, which brings everyone else on their defense at a high level. And he's an impactful defensive player, so we're aware of him. We know where he is. We know some of the things he likes to do. We're not going to shy away from anybody offensively, but there's some things we have to be a little bit more careful with when we're around him, when he gets his sticks in the lanes and he picks the balls off.
He's a vacuum.
He's a talented player.
Yeah, he was a vacuum. He took 7 ground balls against you guys and forced them 3 or 4 turnovers.
He was great. He was great on the wings. I think that's where we didn't do a great job in that game specifically, but he made some really big time plays for them.
And offensively, obviously not as strong as Stony Brook, but in this conference, you guys are going to just blowing guys away with the amount of goal scorers you got. But leading the points for them, let me just try to pull it up here, would be Nick Dupuis with the goals at 28 points, and Ryan Frawley under him, Dupuis and Brandon Galloway, sophomore and junior. And then after him are 3 big seniors in Ryan Frawley, Brett McIntyre, and Trevor Patchwork. So kind of understanding that offensive mind, a lot of them veteran, kind of like your guys. What are you expecting coming into the second battle?
I think they're extremely well coached. I think that's the number one thing. Coach Brand does a really good job with those guys. They have an identity of how they want to play. And I think one of the things with, how they play and how veteran they are, they're slick and savvy. And they score a lot of goals these last couple games, just like unsettled, like scramble balls checked on the ground. They pick it up and score, the ball, it's like deflected. It goes to one of them. They score. I mean, right. They get those plays that, it happens once in a while. You're like, oh, it's just good luck. I mean, they're always in position to make those plays, and I think that's something that's a credit to just really good lacrosse players, and they've had a lot of those guys have been in and out of the lineup. That's kind of why their points are probably lower than they normally would be. But they are very disciplined, very skilled offensive group. And we got our hands full definitely on the defensive side.
It really is amazing because I'm just looking at the scores of all their games right here, and they've never won by more than 5, never lost by more than 5. They're only 5-goal loss to Albany, time lost to Binghamton of all places. But they also have never scored more than 13 goals in a game. One of those was against you guys. And I'm just thinking that you're looking at this, and obviously you guys score more than they do. But your offense has to be doing what it did against Binghamton. Obviously, it beat these guys. How do you do it without them taking the air out of the ball?
I mean, I think, again, with the shot clock, we're going to get enough possessions. It's just being efficient when we have it. I think that's where we really struggled the first time we played them in the first quarter. In the first 4 or 5 times we had it, their goalie made clean saves. They were okay shots. They weren't great shots. I think that's something we've continued to get better at, which then kind of just takes the life out of you a little bit offensively and helped him out in the hoop a little bit in the goal there. So, and we still had a lead in halftime, and then it just came down to not having the ball, So I think that's for us is the key is we got to just continue to play offense. If we got to win the game 5-4, we're going to win at 5-4. If we got to make it, win at 19-18, we got to win at 19-18. They're definitely capable of scoring a lot of goals. The style they play is definitely way more deliberate, where they're not trying to take risks. They're just trying to make good plays, and they can get hot and they can stroke it from the outside with Galloway and 23 there. They can shoot it, Dane Hall. It's one of those games where it's going to be a street fight, and we got to be ready for it.
Matt,
nope, that's good.
Yeah, so I'll wrap it up just because we're not going to be able to chat with you guys next week. We're going to be traveling to Vermont, so we won't be able to chat with you again until after regular season's done. So just kind of put in perspective, at least how you felt your first full season has been in terms of regular season, obviously, and kind of what it's going to take for this team to obviously, they're on a hot streak right now. What is it going to take for them to be consistent and ride through it to the postseason?
I think consistency is the key, right? I mean, I've been fortunate to play in a lot of conference tournaments and win a lot of conference tournament championships. There's no like secret recipe to win those games. You just got to continue. The teams that win those just stick to their plan, and the teams that lose try to do too much. So that's our focus. Continue to practice the way we practice. Rest the guys. We're not out there too long most days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we're out there a little bit longer, but Monday and Friday are pretty light days to make sure we're fresh. If we're fresh and we're playing efficient team lacrosse, I feel like our teams can play against anybody in the country. And I think the experience from playing the Syracuse on a Friday and NJT on a Sunday gives us the ability to get ready to play the conference tournament, right? That's why we were so adamant to play that. Obviously we didn't play well enough against Syracuse to really make it a game, except there in the second quarter. But those are great experiences, right? You get knocked down, you get up, and how you respond. And since that game, I feel like we've responded pretty well. And now it's coming back and understanding that this is going to be a dogfight. And then we got to be ready to fight. And we got to have great energy, excitement, execution, what we talk about all the time. And if we do that, it's going to be a great year. But again, there's a lot of meat left on the bone here.